Here's a simple, lightly smoothed rewrite of the full script. I've preserved nearly every major point, explanation, sequence, tone, compassionate yet realistic and empowering. Key scientific concepts like ages, post meal glucose spikes, B12, inflammation, muscle mass, vascular health, sleep, gut, stress, non metabolic causes, prevention, foot care, central sensitization where implied, nutrients, social connections, and the hopeful reframing and overall structure exactly as in the original. Changes are minimal, mostly slight rephrasing for smoother, natural flow, especially suitable for narration or video, reduced minor repetition, improved sentence rhythm, and easier readability without altering meaning, facts, or word count significantly. The total remains very close to 3,800 words. If you're over 60 and dealing with burning feet, numb toes, electric like tingling, or unsteady balance, these sensations aren't just a mysterious or unavoidable part of aging. They stem from a biological environment inside your body that has shifted gradually over many years. Most people hear that peripheral neuropathy means nerves simply wear out with age, like an old machine slowly winding down. Some are told it's genetic and little can be done. Many leave the doctor believing, either directly or indirectly, that the best realistic option is to manage pain and brace for steady worsening. What's rarely explained clearly is that nerves don't break down randomly or inevitably. They respond every day to the chemical environment around them, to blood flow, and to the metabolic signals they receive. When that environment turns harmful, nerves struggle. When it becomes more supportive, many nerves can hold on to more function than most expect. Peripheral neuropathy isn't one single disease, it's a pattern of nerve damage. It describes what happens when peripheral nerves, the long pathways connecting the brain and spinal cord to the rest of the body, begin to malfunction. These nerves carry signals for sensation, movement, balance, temperature, and pain. Because they're very long and have high energy demands, they're especially sensitive to issues like poor blood sugar control, reduced circulation, inflammation, and nutrient shortages. That's why symptoms usually start in the feet and hands, the areas farthest from the heart and most reliant on tiny blood vessels. A key point, nerve damage develops quietly for a long time before symptoms appear. For years, often decades, nerves face steady, unnoticed metabolic stress with no clear warning signs. During this silent period, damage slowly builds. Proteins inside nerve fibers change shape, blood vessels stiffen, protective insulation thins, and electrical signals slow and become less accurate. The nervous system compensates for a while, masking early changes. By the time burning, numbness, tingling, or instability finally show up, the process is already well advanced. This long delay is why neuropathy often feels sudden and unfair, even though it built up very gradually. In many cases, a central driver is a group of compounds called advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. These form when glucose molecules permanently attach to proteins and fats throughout the body. The attachment isn't harmless, it alters the structure and function of those tissues. Once formed, AGEs are hard to remove and keep accumulating. They particularly damage tissues needing flexibility, accurate signaling, and healthy microcirculation, making peripheral nerves a prime target. To see why ages matter so much, consider the molecular process. Glucose is essential fuel, but it's also chemically reactive. When blood sugar stays elevated for long periods, glucose bumps into proteins more often. Under the right conditions, this creates permanent, stiff, sticky bonds. It's similar to how sugar caramelizes when heated in cooking. In the body, the process happens slowly and continuously when glucose control isn't optimal. The result is tissue that becomes less flexible, less functional, and more prone to inflammation. Inside peripheral nerves, AGEs attack three critical areas at once. First, they alter the nerve fibers themselves, disrupting proteins needed for proper electrical signals. Second, they damage the myelin sheath, the fatty coating that enables fast, smooth signal transmission. When myelin is injured, signals slow, weaken, or distort. Third, ages harm the small blood vessels supplying oxygen and nutrients to the nerves. These tiny capillaries are vital for nerve survival. When they stiffen or narrow, nerves become undernourished and more vulnerable. This three-way attack explains the wide range of symptoms: burning pain from irritated, overfiring fibers, numbness from missing or blocked signals, tingling from erratic firing, weakness from poor muscle communication, and balance problems from unreliable sensory input to the brain. The exact mix and intensity vary between people, but the underlying pattern is often similar. One point often overlooked: fasting blood sugar is a poor measure of this process. Many with neuropathy are told their glucose is normal because fasting levels fall within reference ranges. But fasting only shows the daily low point, not the harmful highs. The greatest risk for age formation occurs after meals when blood sugar rises and often stays elevated for hours. These repeated post-meal spikes drive nerve damage over many years. As we age, the body becomes less efficient at clearing glucose, muscle mass decreases, insulin sensitivity declines, and sugar lingers longer after eating. This doesn't mean aging itself directly causes neuropathy. It means aging reduces metabolic flexibility. When combined with common modern habits, frequent snacking, late-night eating, and processed foods, it creates ideal conditions for age accumulation. Vitamin B12 plays another crucial role. It supports myelin maintenance, helps with DNA synthesis in nerve cells, and clears harmful byproducts. B12 absorption often drops with age and is further impaired by common medications like acid blockers and metformin. Low B12 removes an important protective layer around nerves, allowing damage to accumulate instead of being repaired. Standard blood tests can miss functional B12 deficiency. Levels may appear normal but still be insufficient for optimal nerve function. This gap leaves many vulnerable for years without realizing it. By the time symptoms appear, the deficiency may have been present for a long time. Dietary ages are another often ignored factor. Ages form not only inside the body but also in food during cooking. High heat methods, grilling, frying, roasting, and browning, create large amounts of preformed ages. These are absorbed and add to the total load. Even with good blood sugar control, certain cooking habits can accelerate tissue damage. Switching to gentler, lower heat methods can significantly reduce this intake. Once damage starts, inflammation makes everything worse. Ages trigger immune responses that sustain chronic nerve irritation. This is why symptoms often intensify at night, when circulation slows naturally and inflammatory signals persist. It also explains why neuropathy disrupts sleep, creating a vicious cycle. Poor sleep worsens insulin resistance, raises stress hormones, and leads to higher glucose spikes the next day, which feed more ages and inflammation that disturb sleep further. Movement is one of the most effective ways to break this cycle. Active muscles pull glucose out of the blood after meals. Even short walks can substantially lower post-meal sugar levels. The goal isn't primarily weight loss or intense exercise, it's better metabolic control. Regular movement reduces the raw material for ages and improves blood flow to nerves. Muscle strength also matters. Loss of muscle reduces glucose uptake capacity. Gentle resistance exercises help preserve muscle mass, supporting metabolism and indirectly protecting nerves. This benefit is often underappreciated because it works gradually rather than delivering quick symptom relief. Staying well hydrated supports blood flow and metabolic clearance. Dehydration makes blood thicker, reduces capillary flow, and concentrates glucose. Many older adults drink less without noticing, quietly increasing nerve risk. Consistent fluid intake supports vascular health with almost no effort. Chronic stress affects neuropathy through hormones. Ongoing stress raises cortisol, which increases blood sugar and promotes insulin resistance. Stress alone doesn't cause neuropathy, but it worsens the metabolic conditions that damage nerves. Simple stress reduction practices lighten this burden and help create more stability. One of the most damaging beliefs about neuropathy is that decline is inevitable and unstoppable. This belief discourages action and leads people to accept worsening as normal. While severely damaged nerves may not fully recover, many partially affected nerves can stabilize and function better when the environment improves. People commonly report reduced pain, steadier balance, better sleep, and improved quality of life once further damage slows or stops. The goal isn't perfection, it's protection. Every hour of stable blood sugar is an hour without chemical attack on the nerves. Every better night of sleep supports repair. Every reduction in inflammation improves nerve signaling. Over time, these small gains accumulate, just as the earlier losses did. Peripheral neuropathy isn't purely a nerve problem. It's a metabolic problem that first becomes visible in the nerves. Understanding it this way transforms it from an unavoidable fate into something you can influence. The focus shifts from only managing symptoms to steadily addressing root causes. This offers no false promises of miracles, but it provides something far more reliable, real control over the direction of the process, and that control truly matters. As people begin to see that peripheral neuropathy arises from years of ongoing metabolic stress rather than sudden or random nerve failure, another realization usually follows. The nervous system never operates in isolation. It's in constant conversation with virtually every other system: blood vessels, muscles, hormones, the immune system, even the gut. This deep interconnectedness is why neuropathy is almost never just a nerve thing. It frequently arrives alongside fatigue, sleep disturbances, digestive changes, balance issues, or even mild brain fog. These aren't separate, unrelated problems. They're different expressions of the same underlying imbalance. A factor very commonly missed is prolonged high blood sugar after meals, even when it never crosses into a diabetes diagnosis. Many spend years, even decades, in this gray zone. Post-meal glucose rises too high and lingers too long, yet fasting levels and standard tests stay officially normal. During those years, ages accumulate silently. Because there's no formal label, people are often reassured that nothing serious was found. But nerves don't care about diagnostic cutoffs. They respond only to the chemical environment they live in day after day. Clearing glucose from the blood depends heavily on skeletal muscle. After eating, insulin signals muscles to pull sugar in and store it. When muscle mass declines, as it naturally does with age unless actively maintained, this clearance mechanism weakens. Glucose stays elevated longer, extending the window for glycation. This helps explain why neuropathy risk climbs with age even in people who haven't gained weight. Slim, apparently healthy older adults can still have lost significant muscle mass, especially without resistance-type activity. This muscle-glucose connection also shows why regular movement is one of the strongest protectors of nerve health, even when diet stays the same. Brief walks after meals blunt the height and duration of sugar spikes. Over months and years, that simple habit means fewer ages formed, less inflammation triggered, and better ongoing circulation to the nerves. The effect starts small but compounds powerfully. It addresses the root process far more directly than treating symptoms alone. The vascular system plays a starring role too. Peripheral nerves are fed by an intricate network of the tiniest blood vessels, capillaries highly vulnerable to glycation and oxidative stress. Ages make vessel walls stiffer, reduce nitric oxide availability, and impair normal dilation that ensures good flow. The result is chronic mild underoxygenation, especially in the longest nerves farthest from the heart. Feet and toes show trouble first not because they're inherently weak, but because they're most distant from the main circulation supply. This vascular reality explains why symptoms frequently worsen in cold weather or at night, times when blood flow naturally decreases. It also clarifies why a history of smoking dramatically raises risk. The vessel damage it causes persists and compounds the metabolic injury. Inflammation threads through the entire picture. Ages activate specific receptors that ignite inflammatory cascades. These increase oxidative stress, impair energy-producing mitochondria inside nerve cells, and worsen insulin resistance. Inflammation both results from damage and drives more damage, a self-reinforcing loop. This helps explain why, once noticeable symptoms begin, the condition can sometimes seem to accelerate even without obvious lifestyle changes. Sleep is a critical repair window. During deep sleep phases, systemic inflammation decreases, insulin sensitivity improves, and growth factors support maintenance and repair. Neuropathy that seriously disrupts sleep shortens or fragments this recovery period. Over time, chronic poor sleep weakens metabolic regulation and accelerates nerve deterioration. Because the relationship works both ways, even modest improvements in sleep quality can produce outsized benefits. Late-night eating is particularly harmful here. Food consumed close to bedtime raises blood sugar during hours when insulin sensitivity is naturally lowest. This prolongs elevated glucose exactly when the body should focus on overnight repair and clearance. Simply shifting the final meal earlier often brings noticeably better sleep within days to weeks, and over the longer term, meaningfully eases neuropathy symptoms. No exotic foods or new medications required, just aligning eating with the body's natural rhythms. Gut health influences nerves more than most realize. The digestive tract handles nutrient absorption, helps regulate immune balance, and modulates body-wide inflammation. Chronic poor digestion, low-grade gut irritation, or microbiome disruptions can impair uptake of B vitamins, magnesium, alpha-lipoic acid, and other nerve-critical nutrients. It can also contribute to low-level systemic inflammation. Gut issues rarely cause neuropathy single-handedly, but they amplify risk and slow recovery. Supporting basic gut function improves the overall environment nerves live in. Emotional and psychological factors deserve attention too. Persistent discomfort, uncertainty about the future, and fear of inevitable progression can spark anxiety, low mood, or depression. These states disturb sleep, elevate stress hormones, reduce motivation for daily self-care, and create yet another reinforcing cycle, mental in appearance, but powerfully physical in effect. Breaking that cycle requires compassion, realistic expectations, practical support, and gentle steps rather than self-criticism. Of course, not every case of peripheral neuropathy is primarily metabolic. Autoimmune conditions, certain infections, toxic exposures, chemotherapy, heavy metals, inherited disorders, and other causes can damage nerves as well. Even so, metabolic health, blood sugar stability, inflammation level, circulation, strongly influences how severe the damage becomes and how quickly it progresses, regardless of the initial trigger. Improving those factors helps nerves in almost every scenario. Track progress over weeks and months rather than day to day. Nerve healing and adaptation are intrinsically slow. Metabolic shifts take time to show up in tissue and symptom changes. Normal fluctuations happen. A difficult day or week doesn't erase months of progress. Looking at longer patterns prevents discouragement and gives a more accurate picture. In more advanced neuropathy, the central realistic goal becomes preservation of remaining function. Simply stopping or dramatically slowing additional loss can transform daily life, less pain to manage, better sleep, greater stability, more independence. These differences matter enormously even when full sensation doesn't return. Medical guidance remains essential. Any sudden change, rapid worsening, or new symptoms should be evaluated to rule out other treatable causes. Never stop prescribed symptom relief medications without consulting the prescribing doctor. Lifestyle measures complement and support medical care. They don't replace it. The most powerful shift is often in perspective. Neuropathy isn't something that simply happens to a person out of the blue. It develops inside a specific internal environment. Change that environment persistently, and you change the outcome not overnight, not completely in every case, but meaningfully and often measurably. Long-term management of peripheral neuropathy depends far more on consistent small habits than on dramatic one-time fixes. Nerves respond to repeated daily patterns, not occasional perfection. One excellent week, followed by a long return to old habits, achieves very little. But modest, sustainable supportive choices maintained over years can bend the curve away from decline. In a world obsessed with quick results, this slower rhythm can feel frustrating, but it matches the actual biology of how nerves respond and recover. Aging naturally brings changes that increase vulnerability, declining insulin sensitivity, less efficient mitochondria, creeping low-grade inflammation. These shifts occur even in people who maintain healthy weight and appearance. They're gradual and easy to miss until symptoms finally emerge. Recognizing them reframes neuropathy as the late-stage result of thousands of tiny, compounding decisions rather than pure bad luck or genetics alone. Foot care grows increasingly important as sensation decreases. Reduced feeling heightens the risk of unnoticed cuts, pressure sores, blisters, or ulcers, problems that can become serious very quickly in someone with neuropathy. Daily foot inspection becomes a non-negotiable habit. Supportive footwear, regular moisturizing to prevent cracks, and prompt attention to calluses, corns, or nail changes help prevent major complications. A large proportion of serious disability in neuropathy actually stems not from the nerve damage itself, but from preventable secondary foot injuries that went unnoticed. Hydration affects blood viscosity and microvascular flow. Even mild chronic underhydration thickens blood, reduces capillary perfusion, and limits oxygen and nutrient delivery to nerves. Thirst sensation often blunts with age, increasing the risk of habitual low intake. Consistent, comfortable fluid consumption is one of the easiest ways to support circulation. Social connection provides unexpected but real benefits. Loneliness and isolation raise stress hormones, impair sleep quality, and reduce motivation for self-care routines. Maintaining relationships with family, friends, community groups, or even online supports emotional resilience and indirectly improves physical outcomes. Many find that movement, meal timing, and other habits feel easier and more sustainable when done with or alongside others. Routine medical appointments for chronic conditions can sometimes feel rushed. Coming prepared with clear notes about symptom patterns, what has changed, what helps or worsens things, and specific questions makes the visit far more productive. Advocating calmly and clearly for yourself improves care. It's not confrontation, it's partnership in long-term management. Caregivers need support as well. Watching a loved one deal with constant discomfort, fatigue, or fear is emotionally taxing. Understanding that progress is uneven, that setbacks are normal, and that small gains still count helps set realistic expectations. Supporting the caregiver ultimately supports the person living with neuropathy. Over the long arc, the cumulative effect of many small nerve supportive choices becomes visible. Those who prioritize reasonable blood sugar stability, regular gentle movement, good sleep hygiene, inflammation reduction, and emotional well-being most often experience slower progression, fewer crises, and greater overall function. Symptoms may persist, but they become more manageable. Daily life remains active, connected, and meaningful rather than progressively restricted. The most important truth is this: neuropathy is a condition you have. It is not who you are. You are still a person with a history, relationships, skills, interests, humor, and goals. Holding firmly to that larger identity prevents the condition from claiming more of your life than it deserves. Early and regular attention to B vitamin status, especially B12, folate, and B6, after age 50 or sooner if taking metformin, proton pump inhibitors, or other absorption interfering medications can catch and correct shortages before they silently undermine nerve resilience. Early correction through diet, sublingual forms, or injections, when appropriate, strengthens myelin maintenance and repair pathways that help nerves withstand stress better. Hydration, consistent sleep, and stress management form the preventive foundation. Adequate daily water intake keeps blood fluid and microcirculation effective. Reliable, high-quality sleep protects the nightly anti-inflammatory and insulin-sensitizing window. Simple, repeatable stress relief habits, slow breathing, short nature walks, time with people or pets, prevent chronic cortisol elevation that drives higher glucose and insulin resistance. Conversations about neuropathy can shift from fear driven warnings, you don't want to end up like this, to empowering, practical sharing. Here are the things I wish someone had told me 20 years ago. Talking about easy family friendly changes, after dinner strolls together, roasting vegetables at lower heat instead of grilling, checking B12 levels at annual physicals, makes prevention feel approachable rather than overwhelming. Routine screening matters. Tracking fasting glucose, HbA1c, and, when possible, postprandial patterns over years can reveal slow upward drifts long before they reach diagnostic thresholds. Even within normal lab ranges, a gradual worsening trend is a signal to gently adjust habits. Asking about B12 status and other nerve supportive nutrients during checkups is another low effort preventive step. One of the strongest preventive mindsets is curiosity instead of resignation. Rather than assuming nerves just go bad with age, people who stay curious about how daily choices shape their biology tend to make more protective decisions. They notice how certain meals, eating times, or routines affect energy, sleep, or even subtle sensations in the feet, and that noticing drives incremental improvements long before symptoms demand attention. None of this information is secret or extraordinarily complex. It draws from decades of research into metabolism, glycation, inflammation, nerve physiology, and aging. What has been missing for too long is a clear, compassionate, practical explanation of how these pieces fit together, especially for people over 60 who are already experiencing symptoms or supporting a loved one who is. Peripheral neuropathy does not have to remain a mysterious, unstoppable sentence. It is a late arriving signal that the internal environment has drifted too far from balance for too long. The hopeful reality is that the very same environment that permitted damage can usually be gently, persistently guided back toward conditions that slow progression, stabilize function, and, in many cases, partially restore comfort and capability. You do not need to undo decades of change in a single day. You only need to stop adding fuel to the problem starting right now, and then keep making that same choice tomorrow, and the day after, and the month after. Every hour of more stable blood sugar is an hour without chemical assault on the nerves. Every short walk after a meal lowers the spike. Every night of better sleep protects the repair window. Every reduction in inflammation quiets overfiring and supports clearer signaling. Over months turning into years, those small votes for protection accumulate. They do not erase every scar of the past, but they rewrite the future, from predictable worsening to managed stability, from resignation to realistic optimism, from feeling powerless to having genuine agency. That shift in understanding, from nothing can be done to I actually can influence a great deal, is the place where real, lasting change begins. And once it begins, in most cases, it keeps going.